And one of the most counterintuitive things that happened to me was Adam saying to me long before we were working on a book, it could be way worse. You think when you're devastated, you should be looking for happy thoughts.
Yeah.
So looking for
Yeah.
worse seemed
Yeah.
real. I was like, what do you mean it could be worse?
Yeah.
My husband just died suddenly. He said, well, Dave could have had that same cardiac arrhythmia driving your
Yeah.
children. I mean, you say that, and I was like, oh my God, I could have
would
lost
be
all three
worse.
of them.
Yeah.
Immediately, I was like,
Yeah.
I'm good, kids are alive.
Yeah.
Thinking about what could be worse is actually psychologically healthy.
I think it's a form of self-talk. I think you're telling yourself, in a way, you're almost tricking yourself. You're telling yourself what could actually be worse, which allows you to build resilience, I would imagine, because it allows you to be grateful for things.
You know, Adam and I have talked about how there's a huge self-help section in every bookstore, but there's not a big help others section.
Wow.
We want our book to be in the help others section. And, you know, there is such a thing. Everyone's heard of post-traumatic stress.
Yep.
Everyone's heard of that.
Yep.
But there's such a thing as called post-traumatic growth.
Yep.
And more people experience post-traumatic growth than post-traumatic stress, but no one's ever heard about it. And what that means is you go through something traumatic and you grow. And one of the ways you grow and become stronger is you try to take that pain and do something with it. And so I think this book was me trying to tell other people what I wish someone was there to tell me and what Adam was there to tell me, and try to find some good, some way of honoring Dave's life.
One of you give these, here are all these forms of post-traumatic growth. And one of them is this. You said post-traumatic growth is finding greater meaning in life. It's a stronger sense of purpose rooted in a belief that one's existence has significance. And then you quote Viktor Frankl, the Holocaust survivor, who said, in some way, suffering ceases to be suffering at the moment it finds a meaning. And I think that's absolutely beautiful. That's the story of redemption that faith offers, that in some ways God is using your hurt to help other people. And I'm sure you've seen that in so many different ways, like you even talked about today.
Yeah, in so many ways. And I think that's right. It's that when we suffer, and lots of people suffer, right? You've seen it.
Sure.
I mean, we suffer because we lose people. We suffer because we lose love. We suffer because we lose freedom. We suffer because we lose dreams. What do you do with it? And unfortunately, bad things happen to everyone. And the only question is, how are we going to handle it? And finding meaning. So for me, there's meaning in writing this book and the Option B communities we formed on Facebook and other places so that people can come together. I think people also, in many ways, have a deeper attachment to religion. And that definitely happened to me. I was raised Jewish. It was an important part of my growing up. But I think I became more spiritually aware, cognizant, and aligned through what was the ultimate loss.
Yeah. Any final thoughts that you would say to a leader, maybe a younger leader who's trying to figure out, okay, I've been through some hard pain and I'm trying to grow from it. I'm trying to get better. What are some things they could start doing today? You mentioned gratitude. Is there anything else that they could implement in their life to begin to process that pain in a way that would allow them to bounce forward?
I think gratitude. I kept a journal, which I talked about in there. At first, when I was trying to rebuild my confidence, I wrote down 3 things I did well. Let me tell you, the list was not a very good one. Made tea. Got through 2 meetings without crying. Successfully put my daughter to bed. Read story. She was 7. Wasn't that hard to read a story? But the list got better. You know, and then after I knew I could get through it, knew I could be a mother, knew I could get through my job, I replaced it with moments of joy. So it depends where you are, but 3 moments of joy, like moments where you were like, these are moments where I can be grateful. I also think, and I think you said it earlier, that leadership and the ability to touch others comes from an intellectual place, but even more from an emotional place. Share. Don't have to be open. Not everyone wants to talk all the time. You don't have to cry in meetings, even though I definitely did and still do sometimes. But share who you are.
Wow.
And that means the pain too. And people will trust you and believe in you and learn from you even more. And you'll learn from them.
Wow.
When I shared my pain, other people shared theirs. And I learned so much more. One of the other ways we have post-traumatic growth is deeper relationships. I didn't think I could be closer with my kids. We are closer. I didn't think I could be closer with my sister and brother. And Dave's brother is like brother to me now. We are closer. We are bound together in these experiences.
And that's one of the growths from post-traumatic loss. So can you finish this conversation by telling the story? I hope it's okay to share, but the moment where you're upstairs crying, you have this huge meeting downstairs with, I think it was a bunch of some of the
Clients.
most important Facebook clients. And your son gave you some really important advice that I think really ties into what you're saying about being willing to be openly vulnerable and emotional in a way that helps you actually process it with other people.
Yeah, I was hosting a client dinner or something I do rarely and did much more rarely then. And for what, I had gone to a school assembly that day. And I was sitting there and I overheard someone say to someone that they were upset their husband was missing the school assembly because he was away on a business trip. And it didn't mean to hurt my feelings. There's nothing wrong with saying that, but I was just despondent. And I was like, my husband will never be at anything again. And I went home and I could not stop crying. I was upstairs in my room, could not stop crying. All my clients are arriving. And my son came up and I said, I've got to go downstairs, but I can't stop crying. And he just said, Mom, just go down there and be yourself. And if they see you cry, they'll probably like you better. So I tried to stop crying, but I went downstairs and I couldn't. And I said, my son said it was okay. And they said it was. And a bunch of them had experienced some form of loss too. So many people are walking around. You are sitting next to someone right now who's experiencing something they might not have shared. Share yours and they'll share too.
That's powerful. Well, and thank you for Facebook, because that's one of the benefits of Facebook. I mean, the post that you made 30 days after Dave's death, I think allowed so many people to be able to connect with you in a way, to be able to share their own loss in a way that 20 years ago, we didn't have that platform to be able to do that. So thank you for the benefit that you're adding to our community and to communities all over the world.
No, I really believe that. I mean, there are so many faith-based groups that are on Facebook. There are so many groups around loss and around challenges and around diseases, but also around birthdays and donating to save lives and the best moments of our lives. And I do believe that connection we can share as people really helps us. I did this post on Facebook 30 days in, which I didn't realize would be as broad as it was and go as viral as it did, but it did. But on that post, people said, things like, I just lost one of two twins. I'm in the NICU. And I'm going to go in and try to give that second surviving child a wonderful life. Like, I felt so close to that woman who I will never meet. But that's the power of connection, of building community and being there for one another.
And the power of being vulnerable and sharing your own story with other people, which I've never thought about it in that way, that in a way that really does help you process it. It helps you. I think it's easier to think about, well, this certainly helps other people, but to think about this is actually good for me to share, that's a way to begin to emotionally process some of that pain to help you bounce forward. Is that fair?
Yeah, and to feel like you're doing something with it. It is there, but if you help someone else, I didn't know a lot of people who had lost husbands, or especially as young as I did, but the few I did, they really showed up for me, and we try to pay it forward. I'm so grateful to them, and this book was Maya and Adam trying to give that to more people.
Well, it's a gift, so thank you.
Thank you.
Cheryl, thank you for doing this. Thanks for your time. I know your time is very valuable, and this has been a real pleasure for me, and I think it's going to help a lot of people, so thank you.
Well, thank you. I'm so glad you came to Facebook, even on a rainy day.